the meantime, over 22,000 victims of the 2022 flood disaster and the most vulnerable persons in Kebbi State will benefit from the Special National Economic and Livelihood Emergency Intervention of the federal government. Under the scheme, which is being coordinated by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, various items will be distributed to the short list of people. Our rights correspondent, Suleiman Nasir, tells us more.
660,884 households across the country are expected to benefit from this special intervention after the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, had conducted impact assessment and verification of beneficiaries across the country. The federal government says beneficiaries are victims of the devastating flooding of 2022 and the most vulnerable members of the society. The intervention, according to the government, is expected to drive sustainable socio-economic resilience of the most vulnerable persons. In Kebbi State, 22,000 persons will benefit from the Special National Economy and Livelihood Emergency Intervention, majority of whom are farmers who suffered losses from the devastating flood of last year. Kebbi State Deputy Governor, who represented the State Governor at the distribution, says the state has made arrangements to ensure the items are distributed without rancors.
These are being set up by the governor in each and every local government to ensure that the distribution of these items reach targeted beneficiaries on good time and in full quantity of each and every category. The items are going to be...
Following the flood, search and rescue operations were conducted successfully in several locations where trapped persons were rescued and given necessary care. Immediately after the flood incident, damage and loss assessment was conducted and relief items approved by the federal government were delivered across the states to complement initial intervention by the state.
Some of the beneficiaries who are farmers say, though the hike in fuel prices will affect their dry season farming, this intervention will assist them to cushion the effect of harsh economic realities. Even though the hike in fuel prices will affect our dry season farming, but we have since returned to the farm and we're expecting a bumper harvest for this rainy. The government for remembering us and giving us this palliative. Even though we know the dry season farming will going to be difficult because of the hike in the fuel prices, but we still thank God that we are remembered. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in an earlier report revealed that the flood incident of 2022 claimed the lives of over 600 persons, while over 3,000 persons suffered different degrees of injuries, with 2 million people displaced across the country. Suleiman Nasir, Arise News.
We have in the studio Dr. Bandele Onimode, and is the Director of Planning, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, who is the President, Environmental Protection and Climate Practitioners. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start with...
It's my pleasure for having a good evening.
Right. Let me start with NEMA. It's a good thing that the awarding is coming right on time. But then what should we be doing now that we have the heads up?
Thank you very much for having me. Prior to this time, NEMA has commenced preparedness efforts by alerting the state government of what should be done, by insisting that state government should set up local emergency management committees and local emergency volunteers. We have engaged the zonal, territorial, and operation offices of NEMA to take these messages down to the end users. Those are the people at the local area and areas that have been mentioned to be affected. So as it is, those messages has been given to those people, and from the report we get from our zones, there are a lot of complaints from the state government and the local government. So we are sure that this year, even when the flood comes, the devastating effect will be minimized.
Okay, so plans had been on all along to minimize the devastating effect. Speak to us, Vice Marshal. Speak to us. We've always had these recurrent flooding issues in Nigeria. Speak to us about our environmental commitment or our commitment to environmental protection as a nation. Where are we?
Yes, thank you very much, Nigerians, for having me. But let me start with this LAGO. LAGO has become an annual event.
Right.
This letter, we are not supposed to be talking about it now. We should be talking about it 1 year ago. Because we know that LAGO is going to release water. 13th of September last year, they released water. Don't forget, I've been here several times talking on this flooding. And I've carried out a research to look at the 4 areas. What is it? Energy is going to be disrupted. You have energy security that is going to be threatened. You have food security that is going to be threatened. You have health security that is going to be threatened. And you have environmental that is going to be threatened. And above all, children are going to be displaced from school. So we're not going to be talking of long-term measures now. We're going to be talking, we're already here now. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? The first start of it should have been having pre-water release conference with Cameroon. Cameroon is not our enemy. Look, how do we variegate this water release so that the impact will be less here? That's what we should do. Now, when California was being pounded by rain that's supposed to fall for a year, fell for 1 hour, we should have known that it's coming to the southern hemisphere. But my own concern now is that the downstream, that is Bayelsa, River, Akwa Ibom and all, what is being done with them? So this, what we are discussing, should have been discussed 6 months ago or 1 year ago, because it's a routine thing. LAGO will always release water. And by our research, we'll find out that the amount of water that LAGO releases adds about 40% to our water here. And considering that we're already having a lot of ocean surge, flash flood, and urban flooding, if that one adds to it, we're going to have a lot of problems. It's going to compound mainly food security. That's my major concern.
I'll come back to food security. Yes. Dr. Onimode, it's a good thing that you're with Air Vice Marshal on this show tonight. You just laid the blames at your doorstep. What are you going to do with him?
Why I agree with him, I just want to give an information that prior to this time, NEMA has gotten in touch with those state governments. Lagdo Dam, with the information we had, started releasing water on the 14th of August at the rate of 200 cubic centimeter per minute. But because the water in the dam is not that much, it's been reduced to 50 cubic centimeter per second. So we are talking of modulated release of water. And the states along the part of Lagdo Dam includes Adamawa, Taraba, Benue. Then they meet at the confluence, it cascades into Anambra, Bayelsa. Kogi effect will have to be complemented by the flow from River Niger. So what we are saying now is the states of Anambra, Delta, down to Bayelsa have been informed that these people, Imo inclusive, people should be moved to higher ground. These higher grounds have been identified. Like he said, children are in school or are likely to resume at the peak of this flood. What do? There has been adequate plan to ensure that there is continuity of education, moving these children to other schools that are the upland. So for me, with the preparation NEMA had with the state government, we should have no fear about the effect of releasing water from Lagdo this year.
Okay, so are you giving us an assurance that the recurrent flooding experience will not happen this year?
If the flood comes, what we are saying is the impact will be minimized. It's not that flood will not come. Yeah. Flood is a natural phenomenon. It's going to pass through its path. This is water coming from other countries. But when it comes, with the adequate preparation in place in conjunction with the state and other stakeholders, the devastating effect on farmers will be minimized, on the community will be minimized, because there are adequate information for them to evacuate. And for the farmers, we have started this issue of complementing farmers' losses since 2019. Incidentally, the Air Vice Marshal that is sitting here was a staff of NEMA when this incident started, and we worked together. So the continuous education of farmers and with continuous support that we are giving farmers to plant early maturing crop that could be harvested before the advent of the flood are already in place. So even if there's going to be devastation, water should be expected to come and move to where it's caused. And let me tell you, flood itself is not everything a disadvantage. Flood is going to come with a lot of alluvial soil at the river bank. If the farmers harvest their crops early, they can go back for a second cycle of cropping. So we are hopeful that with 2023 flood in anticipation and with our experience over the year, we should be able to have some support for our farmers and our communities.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Vice Marshal, it's a good thing that you used to work with NEMA. Speak to us about the challenges you had when you were with NEMA. I mean, as a body that NEMA had that didn't allow the agency the capacity to properly curtail flooding before getting out of hands.
Well, like he said,
what were those bottlenecks?
Like he said, you see, over the years, NEMA has evolved. When I was there, we have a very pragmatic DG then, very, very pragmatic. And you see, you can't take that from him. He plans, he's a research man, very research. And he was my deputy then. And when I acted as a DG, that was also at the peak of the flood, you know. First of all, I want to ask now, where is the National Contingency Plan? By now, that should have been activated to tell everybody what to do. It's a multi-sectoral thing. That was what we normally have there. We always have a multi-sector conference. The education will be there, health will be there, because flooding is a national security, because it affects every aspect of security. And you see, the point is that by now we should have indicated what is the essence of this letter. It's education. It's for you to be educated that, look, this is flooding that is coming. If it happens, assuming you are a local jar, this is where you should go to. And don't forget, when there is flooding, the normal telephone does not work because the messages you are pushing out are going to be jammed. The Secretary General of the UN told everybody at the beginning of last year that, look, his own effort is to make sure that everybody in the world have an early warning system.
Right.
Are we keen into that? All these things are available, but essentially then the National Contingency Plan, I think it expired around 2021 or so. It should have been activated by now. Not even now, it should have been activated 3 months ago.
Well, we'll talk about the National Contingency Plan, but before that, Dr. Onimode,
yes,
you spoke earlier about your interaction with the state governors on this issue.
Yes.
What commitments have you got from these state governors, and how many of them have really committed to you?
I want to say all state governors, because my principal, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, had a meeting with the Nigeria Governors Forum, had a meeting with the National Economic Council, where the issue of flood was placed in the front burner. And the state governors showed their commitment, not just showing their commitment. There are state governors today that have started the silting of rivers that are known to cause flooding. And let me go back to the AVM about the National Contingency Plan. Part of the major activity in the National Contingency Plan is to bring up the Emergency Coordination Forum. Just about 2 weeks ago, we had that we have sectoral representation from everybody to tell us what are your plans, what have you prepared, what is in place for 2023 flood. It was explicit. Everybody spoke their mind, we got the information, and we are working with it. And I'm sure in the next 2 weeks, we are going to bring back these actors to tell us what have they added to what we had 2 weeks ago. So I want to just, as a form of information, tell the AVM that the National Contingency Plan is not moribund. We have updated it, we have put in some new ideas, and it's meant to be launched. But even despite the fact that it has not been launched, we're already picking points from it, and we are working with you.
When are you launching the National Contingency Plan?
As soon as possible, and I'm sure your organization will be invited to be part of the launch.
Okay, so and then how does it work? Let's domesticate it. When you say National Contingency Plan, I like to make issues relatable.
Yeah.
How does the average Nigerian make use of that contingency plan?
You see, we have started with preparedness. The National Contingency Plan is like taking care of response when it happens. So it's about actors, it's about ministry, department, and agencies. It's about collaborators, it's about non-ministry experts, the military, the private sector. What do they bring on board when they are needed? Visits have been made to service chiefs to say, please, we would like to use your platform to help people who are going to be involved. We have spoken to the transport sector. We need your trucks, we need your buses to evacuate these people. And we have spoken to even the education ministry who anchors the education sector of the National Contingency Plan to say, what are your plans with the state government through federal institutions in those states, through state institutions? What is your collaboration with SUBEB? What is your collaboration with post-primary education sector? All these are being put together to ensure that nobody, especially students, if we use the institution as a temporary shelter for victims, education will still continue, other institutions that are not affected. So all these are broadly encompassed and explicit with the National Contingency Plan.
Vice Marshal, our Ecological Fund and the money that goes into let's talk about the Ecological Fund first. How judiciously would you say we've made use of our Ecological Fund in Nigeria?
Well, in this premise, we should not be talking about Ecological Fund. Ecological Fund is too small to deal with the problem that we are having now. It's too small. You know, last year you saw that 809 billion was released to deal with the flooding of 2022.
Well, we should still talk about it.
Yes.
We should talk about it.
Ecological Fund,
because it's too small is the reason why you should talk about it.
Ecological Fund it has its own area. It's purpose driven. It's just there. What we are talking now is a broader sense. It's a broader aspect of national security. Let me tell you, when the flooding starts now, Lokoja is going to be discontinued from the rest part of the world. Okay. The economy is going to be disrupted. Let me tell you, last year, you have $6.9 billion US was the loss in the economy. Will Ecological Fund be able to solve that? No. You see, what we should have been doing in another area, apart from the National Contingency, is to say the alternative route.
Which is what?
Alternative route that goods and services will move from the south to the north and the north to the south when the flooding comes. It's going to come. You see, Lokoja is a melting pot that goes everywhere. Now, this whole thing, this should have been on ground for a very long time. And the National Contingency Plan, if you look at it, it did not actually take care of the farmers, if you look at it. Because if you look at the farmers, they are very fungible, their goods are fungible. So they are the main strength of that particular thing. So this is Ecological Fund does not really suffice in this area. It is purpose driven, it has its own purpose. So what we are doing now is a broader sense. Again, I want to tell you, no country can fund flooding disaster from envelope budgets.
Okay, then from envelope budget.
Yes.
We're trying to wrap this up now.
Yes.
State governors are getting more money each month from the federal allocation. How would you advise that they also look into issues like this, like flooding, as they cooperate with NEMA in how they budget for their federal allocation?
You see, the state government, and you see the way we are looking at state government, as if they are the culprit in the whole of this thing. No,
we're not saying that.
I'm just saying that for the purpose of the country. You see, they also have their own challenges. Some of them, they are ravaged by insecurity, they are ravaged by a whole lot of things. Now, the funding that we are supposed to use for all this now, you see, like I said, it's no more from envelope budget. There was a conference in Paris that told you that, look, we have to solve the problem of Africa. That was what Macron was saying. That there's a lot of funding that, okay, as it stands now, the World Bank, IMF and all, their laws now does not favor releasing money to Africa. So he said he was going to champion, you know, tinkering with the laws so that they will be able to accept it. So I don't want us to take the state government to the cleaners. To the cleaners now. So they are doing their own work. But
okay.
when the flooding comes, like Bayelsa now, there's no amount of money he has that can solve the problem.
Thank you.
Or rivers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We must draw the curtains right here on this discussion. A big thank you to Dr. Bandele Onimode, who is the Director of Planning, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you for coming to this night.
Thank you for having me.
And retired Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, President, Environmental Protection and Climate Practitioners. Thank you very much indeed for coming to this night.
Thank you.